They want you silent, because silence is easier to control than thought. They built a system that doesn't chain your body. It chains your voice. Every time you doubt, every time you hesitate to speak, they win. They want the thinkers quiet, the dreamers afraid, and the brave distracted. They don't burn books anymore. They burn attention. They don't silence you by force. They drown you in noise. They want you to scroll, not speak, consume, not question. And if you ever raise your voice, they'll call you dangerous, arrogant, insane, anything but awake, because truth doesn't whisper, truth roars. And when truth roars, systems tremble. So they teach you to stay quiet, to keep your head down, to be polite while the world burns. They tell you peace means silence, but real peace is born only when lies die. You were not born to stay silent. You were born to speak fire, even if your voice shakes, because your silence will never protect you. But your truth might just set the world on fire. Look at the world around you. So much movement, and yet no direction. People speak all day but say nothing real. They argue but never question. They shout but never listen. The system doesn't fear noise. It fears meaning. It will let you scream as long as your words don't carry truth. You can sing, dance, post, and scroll. But the moment you speak against illusion, the moment you break their script, they'll come for your voice. The silence they sell you is disguised as peace. Don't talk about it, they say. Stay positive. But how do you stay positive in a world built on lies? How do you smile when everything you love is turned into profit? They want a population that feels but never acts, that speaks but never risks, that obeys, not because it's forced to, but because it's afraid not to. The greatest control is not through fear, it's through distraction. The world is filled with screens, yet starved of meaning. Everyone is connected, yet no one is free. You are taught to survive, not to awaken. You are taught to fit in, not to think. But those who think, those who dare to speak, those who break the silence, they become dangerous. Dangerous, not because they carry weapons, but because they carry awareness. Awareness is contagious, and when enough people begin to see, the whole illusion begins to fall apart. The silence is their fortress. The noise you make in fear only feeds it. But the moment you speak with truth, walls begin to crack. They call it order. I call it a cage. They call it stability. I call it a grave for the human spirit. Every voice that speaks truth becomes a weapon. Every question that pierces illusion becomes a spark. Remember this. The system does not fear violence. It manufactures it. What it fears is awakening, because awakening cannot be killed. So listen now. These are the rebel laws. The rebel laws. Law 1, question everything. They say knowledge is power, but only when it's your own. Never trust a truth that comes with a price tag. Law 2, speak even when your voice shakes, because silence is agreement, and obedience disguised as peace. Law 3, fear is a currency. They spend it daily to buy your silence. Stop paying. Law 4, comfort is a drug. It kills the fire gently, dose by dose. Law 5, pain is your teacher. Every scar is proof you live free, not safe. Law 6, ignorance is slavery. Read what they forbid. Learn what they hide. Think what they fear. Law 7, truth needs no permission. If you wait for approval, you'll wait forever. Law 8, rebellion is not destruction. It's creation. The destruction you fear is only the birth of clarity. Law 9, you do not need many. One awake mind is stronger than a million obedient ones. Law 10, speak truth, even if you stand alone. Because once one voice rises, others remember they say power comes from money, from armies, from boats. But real power comes from awareness. Awareness cannot be taxed, imprisoned, or erased. It lives in every question you ask, every silence you break. They built a world that teaches, use you to fear being different. But difference is the only evidence of freedom. The moment you open your eyes, they lose control. The moment you decide to think, their empire trembles. You will be mocked. You will be called mad, lost, extreme. Remember, every truth sounded insane the first time it was spoken. Let them call you dangerous, because the dangerous are the ones who still feel alive. Dangerous, not because we destroy, but because we remember. We remember that the earth does not belong to the powerful. It belongs to the awake. So rise not with weapons, but with awareness, not with anger, but with clarity. And when they ask you to lower your voice, Whisper your truth louder. When they tell you to sit down, let the earth itself feel your footsteps, because truth will always sound like revolution. To those who fear it, there will come a night when you feel the whole world has gone quiet, and in that silence you'll hear a voice that doesn't sound like theirs. It's not the system, it's not the crowd, it's you. That voice, the one they told you to ignore, that is your rebellion waiting to breathe. You've spent years learning to stay quiet, to fit in, to hide the chaos in your soul so you could look peaceful on the surface. But peace built on silence isn't peace. It's surrender. They want you numb, because a numb soul doesn't ask questions. They want you calm, because a calm crowd never revolts. But look closer. The fire inside you has never died. It's been waiting, quiet, patient, burning beneath the skin of obedience. You've always known there's more than routines, more than rules, more than the illusion of normal. You've always known you weren't made to obey. The world doesn't change when the strong rise. It changes when the silent finally speak. So speak. Even if your voice shakes, stand. Even if your legs tremble, fight. Not to destroy, but to remember, because freedom isn't a gift. It's a muscle. You either use it or you lose it. They made you fear mistakes, fear judgment, fear being wrong. But fear was always the leash. The truth is this. Every time you break your silence, you break your chains. Every time you think for yourself, you rise above the system. Every time you choose truth over comfort, the world changes a little more. You are not here to fit in. You are here to wake others up. And if that makes you dangerous, then be dangerous. Because the ones who changed history were never safe. They were laughed at. They were hunted. They were silenced. But not one of them stayed quiet. You may not hold a weapon, you may not lead a crowd, but if your mind is free, you've already started a revolution. This world was built on obedience, but it will be reborn through awareness. And it starts with one act, speaking the truth. Speak when they tell you not to. Think when they tell you to stop. Live when they tell you to survive, because silence is not peace. It's the mask fear wears to look polite. And now, it's time to take that mask off. Rise. Not with anger, but with clarity. Rise, not to destroy, but to awaken. Rise, not for power, but for truth. Because truth sounds like thunder. Truth sounds like revolution. Truth sounds like you. They want you silent, because your voice is the one sound they can't control. When the fire fades, all that remains is truth. Not the noise, not the lies, just the quiet voice that refused to die. They will tell you that silence is strength, that peace is the absence of sound. But remember this. Peace built on silence is a lie wearing perfume. Real peace comes only after the storm. When every false wall has fallen, you will be tempted to stop, to rest, to blend back into the comfort that once numbed you. But comfort was never your home. You were the fire they couldn't extinguish, the storm they couldn't contain, the voice they couldn't erase. You were not meant to live quietly. You were meant to echo across generations. So speak. Even when no one listens. Walk, even when the road is empty. Rise, even when you rise alone, because silence is the language of control. But truth is the voice of evolution. One day the world will thank you for the chaos your honesty created. You are not an echo of obedience. You are the beginning of awareness. This is not just a speech. This is a reminder. You were never meant to be silent. You were born to awaken, and if they ever ask who told you that, tell them, the rebel mind.